The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, David Sergeyenko, is quitting the Parliament. A meeting of the Committee on Procedural Issues and Rules of the Parliament has already been called, where they will discuss the issue of premature termination of Sergeyenko's mandate as a member of the Parliament. Georgian International Airport served 2,485,263 passengers between January and June, marking a 45% year-on-year increase, this Georgian Civil Aviation Agency said on Wednesday. Statistics also showed all three international airports in the country received 8,556 flights over the 6 months. The agency said the number of flights had increased by 29% year-on-year and recovered by 90% from the pre-pandemic figure. Plans are underway to turn the South Caucasus country of Georgia into a transit hub for Russian travelers flying to Europe, the RBC Business Daily reported Thursday, citing the part owner of a Russian airline and major airport. Vitaly Vantsev, the part owner of Azimut Airlines and Moscow's Vnukovo Airport, told RBC that work was underway at Tbilisi International Airport in the Georgian capital to create a transit hub for passengers traveling from Russia to Europe. Our partners from Georgian Airways are providing good offers for Russian passengers in terms of transit, open flights to Europe, to Paris, Nice and Rome, where direct flights are now closed, Vantsev said. Russian President Vladimir Putin in May lifted a ban on direct air travel with Georgia that had been introduced in 2019 following anti-Russian rallies in Tbilisi. The National Bank of Georgia starts preparatory works to dedicate 5 lari copper, nickel, silver and gold collector coins and announces the competition for the selection of relevant design sketches. In 2025, lari will date back 30 years from its introduction. On 25th of September of 1995, the Georgian national currency lari was put in circulation, and from the 2nd of October of the same year, it was declared only the legal means of payment in the entire territory of Georgia. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kvanchilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. The General Prosecutor's Office of Georgia has initiated criminal proceedings against Giorgi Bachiashvili, the former head of the Co-Investment Fund, for the alleged misappropriation of a significant amount of cryptocurrency and the subsequent legalization of illicit proceeds. The statement of the prosecutor's office talks about the embezzled 8,253 bitcoins, the value of which was USD 39 million during the embezzlement period. At today's exchange rate, this portfolio is worth around 258 million USD. If found guilty, Bachiashvili could face a prison sentence from 9 to 12 years. The company GCF Partners was founded in May 2013. At that time, 42% of the company was registered in the name of Ucha Mamatsashvili and Giorgi Bachiashvili, and 16% was registered in the name of Levan Vasadze, who left the company after 1 year, and only Bachiashvili and Mamatsashvili remained in the structure of owners. From February 2018, Ucha Mamatsashvili transferred his own 50% to Giorgi Bachiashvili, and from this period, Bachiashvili was the owner of the company in the official documentation. From the financial statements prepared by GCF Partners, it is clear that in 2021, the company had assets of around 7 million lari. The net profit was 640,000, while in 2020, the net profit exceeded around 3 million lari. Last year, the total assets of the company were estimated at around 14 million lari. Giorgi Bachiashvili is no longer the owner of the managing company of Co-Investment Fund affiliated with Bidzina Ivanishvili. According to the deal concluded on December the 2nd, Giorgi Bachiashvili transferred 100% of the shares of GCF Partners to Bidzina Ivanishvili's nephew Akhak Obiashvili, who became the sole owner of GCF Partners on December the 5th. The details of the purchase are not public. The court granted bail in the sum of around 2.5 million lari to Giorgi Bachiashvili, the former head of the Georgian co-investment fund, for misappropriation of a large amount of cryptocurrency and money laundering. Defendant has 30 days to pay. The accused stated that he did not plead guilty. We will open today's checkpoints with an interview with Robert Amsterdam, lawyer of Giorgi Bachiashvili from Amsterdam and Partners. The law firm is well known for its pro bono practice in human rights, including the defense of Ilya Ponomarev, an exiled Russian State Duma deputy, Maurice Kamto, leader of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, Bobi Wine, a Ugandan MP, and opposition leader Tundu Lissu, leader of the Chadema party in Tanzania. The firm has also represented Georges Adongi, a United Nations employee who survived a campaign of intimidation by officials in Zimbabwe, a case which resulted in Amsterdam and Partners LLP being awarded the Global Pro Bono Dispute of the Year award from the American lawyer. Since 2019, the firm has been privileged to represent members of the Hinduya family in a highly sensitive dispute involving the legacy of billionaire industrialist Hinduya, featuring many aspects common to the experiences of UHNWIs. Acting managing partner of the firm, Amsterdam, is an international lawyer with 40 years experience working on high-profile cases in emerging markets. He is the founding partner of Amsterdam and Partners LLP, a boutique international law firm with offices in London and Washington, D.C., with an innovative practice exploring synergies between public international law, international criminal law, and political advocacy. Amsterdam has been retained by numerous sovereign governments, political parties and candidates, higher net worth individuals, foreign investors, and multinational corporations. Current and past clients include the Republic of Turkey, former Prime Minister of Mongolia, Chimed Saikan, former President of Zambia, Rupiah Banda, former Prime Minister of Thailand, Thaksin Shinawatra, and Russian billionaire Mikhail Khodorkovsky, among others. With significant experience on the ground in emerging economies across Africa, Asia, Eurasia, and Latin America, Amsterdam has successively settled disputes for major corporations such as PwC and the Four Seasons Hotel and Resorts Group, while also advising companies on opening new markets and managing political risk. As a prolific columnist and blogger, Amsterdam's writings have been published in the New York Times, the Financial Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post, Forbes, among other publications. Amsterdam has made numerous television appearances on networks such as CNN, CNBC, Bloomberg, BBC, and Fox News. For many years, he has written a bi-monthly column for Spears on issues facing UHNWIs and is also the host of the popular literacy podcast Departures. Profiles of Amsterdam have appeared in the Globe and Mail, Le Monde, and the American Lawyer. Robert Amsterdam is a member of the Canadian and International Bar Associations and is licensed as a solicitor in the United Kingdom. He earned his BA from Carleton University in Ottawa and studied law at Queen's University in Ontario. Here is our interview with Robert Amsterdam, who is currently representing Giorgi Bachiashvili.
Thank you, sir, so much for your time. My name is Giorgi Sakadze. I represent Business Media Georgia as an editor and host, and I'm here accompanied by Elena Kvangilashvili. She's probably one of the best editor-in-chiefs in Georgia, working for BMG English version, so we have a pleasure to interview you. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Mr. Amsterdam, let us start our interview with you summarizing all the points you've had about George Bachiashvili's case during this period. What is the main message you want to convey through all these Twitter posts that we have been reading and also watching some of your interviews?
Look, it's very simple. In no other country would there be this type of case brought by prosecutors. I mean, a complete farce. Mr. Ivanishvili seems to believe he can just make a call to the prosecutors and get them to charge anyone he wants for anything. I mean, the case makes no logical sense. It's very clear from the only documentary evidence that my client had a loan with respect to the business in question. It appears Mr. Ivanishvili believes that if you have the misfortune to bank at his bank and you make money, he shares in the profit. And if you lose money, it's all yours. The case itself makes no logical sense. The attack on my client seems to be about issues relating to Ivanishvili believing he's somehow tainted by my client's belief in Western values, as was exhibited by the Instagram posts he put up after the Russian invasion of Georgia, and by continued comments from Ivanishvili that somehow the West was behind the problems at Credit Suisse, which in fact my client helped resolve very much in Mr. Ivanishvili's favor.
Yes, you are. It seems to me that you are taking more like a political defense line, and Bidzina Ivanishvili's lawyers, they stick to the business line, mentioning some other projects already as well within the co-investment fund, mentioning Mtkbari Hesi and trying to justify why it took 8 years to be interested in this specific case with Bitcoin mining.
Well, these other allegations with respect, I think, to this tunnel issue are a joke. Mr. Ivanishvili was involved, as was the board, in every decision made. None of these have any relevance to a criminal charge. I absolutely do not know what the prosecutors or Mr. Ivanishvili believe that reasonable people would think hearing about these charges. And the fact that Mr. Ivanishvili's lawyer is out there talking about the charges, and members of the government, one cabinet minister used the term treason. I mean, this is all a complete joke. It's really
do you know personally,
Georgia,
sir?
Make Georgia
yes.
look like a sultanate as opposed to a democracy. I simply don't get it.
Okay, we got you. Do you know personally Giorgi Bachiashvili? I mean, you're talking a lot about him. You're describing him as a decent pro-Western person, and my question is, in what situation, if so, you know him personally, you met each other, and your attitudes towards Giorgi himself?
Well, to be frank, I've had something of a long history in Georgia. And yes, I've spent time with him and met him. And I've heard about him through numerous common friends. So it's absolutely within the specter of my knowledge in terms of my relationship with him.
Okay, you said that you were engaged with Georgia before when I asked you about George.
Years ago, I did some work for a Georgian agency.
Okay.
I think it was right before the war. And I got to know quite a few people in Georgia at the time, and managed to stay in touch with a number of them since. So I guess my relationship with Georgia goes back 15 years.
Correct.
My relationship with the region goes back decades. I've spent a lot of time in Georgia, Russia, the countries in the region, all my life.
Yeah, we are in charge of that, and that's why my next question is about Bidzina Ivanishvili himself, Mr. Amsterdam. Do you know him personally, or if not, if not, have you heard anything about him, or maybe you've heard about him from a person who's been your defendant in the previous years, Mr. Mikhail Khodorkovsky? You've been his lawyer for years, and maybe you know something, or can you evaluate sources about Mr. Ivanishvili if you have so?
Look, let me be very clear.
Okay.
I cannot fathom why Mr. Ivanishvili is behaving in this way. I have never discussed Ivanishvili with Khodorkovsky, nor would I ever do that. And I haven't spoken to Misha in a number of years. So this has nothing to do with anything other than, when you talk about Ivanishvili in Georgia, everything is kind of on the public record. His misuse of state organs, all of this is cited in, EU documents, let alone what you hear from people in terms of Georgia. So there's no
need of any other private sources.
Nothing about Ivanishvili's relationship to the courts or prosecutors is new. This is cited. There are EU documents. There are senior people in the EU that have been talking about this for years.
Then my question to you, Mr. Amsterdam, would be the following. Probably the big influence, and you also talk of this big influence that Ivanishvili has on Georgia. And you also probably know that the mining business had very big privileges. It had preferential duties on the side of the electricity. It was much easier to do this business in Georgia than in any other parts of the world, I could say. If this
excuse me, I think you're incorrect. I think if you look at Estonia and you look at some other countries, you would find that a lot of what Georgia has done is not so unusual. Countries go out of their way to attract this type of investment. And that's, not a part of anything we're dealing with today. But I don't think your comment's actually correct.
Okay, let's not go in comparisons with the world then, although I would argue with the electricity prices on that. But my question is totally different. If this was not also Bidzina Ivanishvili's business and it was only Giorgi Bachiashvili's business, would you say that such preferential duties would still stand and would still be in place?
Look, again, I will tell you that preferential duties to attract high-tech business are absolutely standard. Countries like Canada, Estonia, Finland, Germany, look at how many billions Germany has just handed over to Elon Musk to get a battery factory going. This type of thing is absolutely standard. So again, I must be missing something, but I don't see any real connection with that.
Let me tell you what Bidzina Ivanishvili's defense says. One of their arguments is that all the risks of starting mining business with this loan was on Ivanishvili, since the business was very risky and the only initial investment back then was this loan that Ivanishvili gave to George Bachiashvili. And the defense says that this way Bachiashvili cannot be considered as an investor, but rather as an implementer of the investment plan of Bidzina Ivanishvili. What is your take on this argument? Does it stand your criticism?
Again, I'm in this case, I'm just met with farcical comments. There's a loan document. There's a loan, period. If you're trying to talk about criminal law, which is what Ivanishvili has done, He's taken some argument or gripe he has because perhaps he didn't spot the benefits of the investment the way my clients did, and he's turned it into criminal charges. There's absolutely nothing in respect to the criminal law that relates to anything you're asking me or his lawyer is saying. If there is some business issue that Ivanishvili wants to propagate about my client, that's something else. But no, he went to charge my client with criminal matter that could put him inside jail without even a phone call with respect to a matter that went on 8 years ago. Everybody in Georgia should be horrified at this behavior of this individual. It's shocking. That's what's shocking. Not whether his lawyer is coming up with some new argument to try to justify these outrageous charges.
People close to Bidzina Ivanishvili, like his former advisor, Khukhashvili, say that with these charges, Ivanishvili may disappear his most cherished legend about himself, that he is not doing any business in Georgia, that he's just a philanthropist, a charity man, the image that he had been building very carefully throughout all these years. Do you think that George Bachiashvili's comments on Western values or on war on Ukraine or any political subject would make Ivanishvili come out of this comfort zone and leave this shadow of charity that he has been cherishing for so many years?
Well, I will tell you something. A man as successful as Mr. Ivanishvili, to behave in this way and harness the power of the state to attack an individual without evidence, with only malice and greed as a motivator, I don't think the word charitable and Ivanishvili should be put together in Georgia again.
Mr. Amsterdam, sir, my next question goes to George Bachiashvili again. And when you consider, and let me quote you through your Twitter account, if you read you'll see that the prosecutor office in Georgia is actually acting as one man's agency. I'm quoting yourself, sir. So my suggestion is, just a couple years ago, your defendant was a part of Ivanishvili's foundation, the Partnership Foundation itself, and the system itself. I'm talking, what you are saying is that it's acting as a one-man's agency. George, whom we know personally very well, was a part of that system as well. So do you feel comfortable, in these regards as well, when George Bachiashvili was so much active and he was assisting Ivanishvili just few years ago, in the case of Credit Suisse? We are in charge of this as well from Ivanishvili's and previous lawyers. We have all these facts as well, but we should take also into consideration that George Bachiashvili was part of the Co-Partnership Foundation, am I right? Co-Investment Foundation, yes, as a CEO and as a head of advisory board so far. Go ahead.
Look, again, folks, if an individual fulfills an employment duty and supervises successfully the recovery of monies that appear to have been taken from Mr. Ivanishvili. In the case of Credit Suisse, Mr. Ivanishvili appears to have been vindicated with the assistance of my client, and the facts and equities on that case are squarely in Ivanishvili's favor. And I do not, I would say nothing but compliments to George for handling the recovery of monies. The individual at Credit Suisse that was involved actually shot himself. The behavior of Credit Suisse in that case was outrageous. And the fact that George assisted in the recovery of funds is praiseworthy. That in no way, it in no way compares to calling up a prosecutor and having criminal charges laid at the foot of someone for reasons that are even today inexplicable. There's absolutely no symmetry between the two things.
Let me continue Georgi's hopefully thought of line. You mentioned that, this pro-Western statements on Ukraine, attitudes towards this war led to the charges that Bidzina Ivanishvili himself is charging George Bachiashvili with at this moment. But to be frank with you, Mr. Amsterdam, when you first issued the statement and when you said that it was politically motivated, it was quite a surprise, because we haven't heard of any critical comments from George Bachiashvili in years. What you are referring to, are those the critical comments behind the closed doors, or what's happening there?
It's important that people understand what the Council of Europe and others define as a political prosecution. Sadly, you're looking at it not in a legal way. To be a political hostage, as George is, you need to be the victim of a political process, which he is. The fact is, George has resources that could make him a political opponent. And he has views that clearly have, in Ivanishvili's mind, made him a political opponent, an opponent of values that completely disagrees with Ivanishvili, and that came out through the war and came out through comments related to Ivanishvili somehow believing that Credit Suisse was some sort of Western conspiracy.
Yeah.
So this, you don't have to be a member of a political party to be a political victim. And I think there's this misunderstanding of people. I represent many political leaders in Africa, Bobby Wine and many others, who are persecuted because they are running political parties. But to be a political hostage or a political victim doesn't require you to be pontificating about politics. What it requires is for you to be considered by those in power, either formally or informally, as a political threat. That's clearly what the perception was of George.
So basically, Mr. Amsterdam, what you are saying is that when George Bachiashvili became stronger in his business, when his business grew, and when his attitudes became apart from Ivanishvili's attitudes, that's when Ivanishvili started this process, and these 8 years have nothing to do with any of the business proceedings. Am I right?
You are right.
It's not a business revenge. It's a personal revenge based on some political doubts and some political, theories, conspiracy. Ivanishvili might have, sir. Am I right in your logic?
I think you are right. I don't think that's all, because it doesn't put enough emphasis on the role of the prosecutors in taking up this case, or Ivanishvili's telephone justice. I think Ivanishvili must have a hotline with the prosecutor's office in a way that, I've only seen in very few countries. Certainly, I've never seen it that I can remember, and I do these types of cases for a long time. I've never seen a private citizen have this much control over the prosecution that I can remember. I mean, in Putin's Russia, yes, we had telephone justice, Basmani justice, where everything was controlled. But Putin was, a political leader. In this case, that Ivanishvili is propagating, there's none of that. I mean, it's really, his behavior is more like a sultan. I don't really understand to what extent he's allowed to get away with this kind of conduct with absolute impunity inside Georgia, though not outside of Georgia.
And the last question, probably to wrap up our conversation, and thank you, Mr. Amsterdam, again for talking so openly about the case. In one of your Twitters, if I'm not mistaken, you said the baseless, politically motivated charges brought against George Bachiashvili are a very negative signal for rule of law and investment. Please, we are business media, and this aspect is also worrying us, so please elaborate a little bit on this focus as well, and then we will say goodbye.
Well, look, there is nothing that worries an investor more than seeing a legal system being abused in this way. George is a domestic business player. But the fact that he's been targeted in this way on charges that, quite honestly, don't withstand any scrutiny. I mean, that's why they're bringing in the tunnel and some. They're going to bring in other things. You know, I'm an old guy. When Brezhnev turned on you, they would pile on. And I'm sure Ivanishvili now realizes that nobody's buying these charges. He's got to come up with something else. But when people see this scramble to taint a young, brilliant, INSEAD educated entrepreneur, it's only a bad sign. It's only a demonstration of impunity. And, you know, I would remind everybody that in a number of the cases I've been involved with, including Khodorkovsky, look what happened to Russia after the indictment of Khodorkovsky. Look at that economy and look at what's happened to it in terms of being brought back to a completely extractive economy. I mean, this is a terrible sign, and it is a moment for Georgian business to wake up and cause a stir and demand an end to this prosecution. At the end of the day, the prosecutors actually are civil servants dedicated to the Constitution of Georgia. Somebody needs to remind them. The business community needs to remind them, if today it's Georgie, who is it tomorrow? Who is it the next day? That is what foreign investors as well as local businessmen will take from this.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Amsterdam. Thank you so much for your time. We'll keep in touch and we'll update each other with some news coming from your office. And if anything, we will send the questionnaire. Thank you.
And I will be coming back to Georgia. So hopefully we can...
We'll definitely meet. We'll definitely meet, sir. Thank you so much.
Look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
What was new in business this week? On to Natia Taktakishvili.
Valery Checheria, CEO of Rooms Hotel, declares that the tourist segment has changed in 2023 compared to the previous year due to the unstable situation in the region. As he notes, the hotel chain expected to receive a large number of tourists from Europe, but they failed because of the Russia-Ukraine war, as tourists from Europe refrained from traveling to Georgia. 35% of the guests account for Georgian travelers, followed by Russian tourists as well. We have guests from Thailand, Gulf countries, China, and Japan. The situation is different in Tbilisi. We have expected tourists from Europe, but the capital city is mostly visited from Israel, the Gulf, and Arab countries, Checheria said. According to him, Georgia has a good tourist potential, but the country needs a good marketing campaign in order to attract a flow of tourists to the country. The real estate development company Tanisi Resort Residence will build a residential complex on the Black Sea coast, where Shekwatili Forest Beach will be arranged near the Paragraph Resort and Spa Shekwatili Hotel. According to the project, the multifunctional complex will include 40 villages, recreational, entertainment, and relaxation spaces. Future owners will be able to enjoy 1 kilometer Pine Park, restaurants, cafe bars, spa, and wellness services. The implementation of the first phase of the project will also include construction of outdoor and indoor swimming pools, which will have yellow sand beaches. Living space of Forest Beach villas ranges from 280 square meter to 550 square meter. According to the company, sales of the VR Forest Beach villas are already started. The television broadcasting tower, which looks down over Georgia's capital of Tbilisi from the city's highest point, will still be renovated. Company KAZ Group will implement the project of Tbilisi TV Tower. According to Anna Shanidze, technical director and project manager of the company went through one of the difficult stages and agreed on the initial image of the building with the Tbilisi Historical Council. The reconstructed TV tower will offer an outlook point with a panoramic view of the surroundings and cafes as well. Tbilisi TV Tower modernization project was announced back in 2018. In 2021, the company KAZ Group was selected based on the interest expression. The company has an obligation to invest at least $4 million USD. Tourist infrastructure will be transferred to KAZ Group under the management for a period of 29 years. Hotel Sunset Showi resumed operations after a 2-year break in Racha. The hotel, located in Showi Resort, offers 30 comfortable rooms and 2 cottages. The hotel is managed by the international hotel management company Hotel Collection International. The hotel has entertainment areas, table tennis, table football, billiards, indoor basketball course, outdoor basketball, football courses, as well as children's entertainment room. Anna Muradashvili, operations manager of Hotel Collection International, says that Sunset Showi has been operating for only a week, and at the moment the demand for accommodation is slowly increasing. According to her, there is more interest from the locals in Showi, although foreigners are among the vacationers. The management company notes that the holiday season in Zamoracha starts in mid-July and reaches its peak in August. As for the accommodation price in Sunset Showi, per night cost starts from 200 lari. Breakfast is included in the accommodation price, but guests can also add lunch and dinner. Maria Margiani, the founder of the Hotel Wine Space located in Racha, says that due to the bad weather, they had a 50% decrease in bookings in June this year compared to the same period of the last year. It's difficult for the founder of the company to predict how the summer of this season will end. Probably in the months of July, August, our hotel will be loaded with tourists. However, I cannot say exactly how much the figures will increase because the bad weather turned out to be unpredictable for us, explained Margiani. In addition, the founder of Wine Space notes that they have local tourists as well as foreign visitors from Poland, Russia, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. As for the prices, according to the Margiani, this year the costs were increased by about 15-20%, which was caused by the improvement of the service quality. Wine Space combines 3 so-called gambling cottages and 1 boutique hotel. In June 2023, a partnership memorandum was signed between the development company Metropole and the French international hospitality company Louvre Hotels Group, which implies that Metropole will exclusively introduce the 5-star hotel brand Royal Tulip to Ajara region. Within the framework of the mutual cooperation, 2 large investment projects, Cube and Oval, are currently under construction in Batumi. The business class concept Cube project is an important investment for the region, the amount of which exceeds 160 million lari. Metropole Cube's infrastructure includes a conference hall, a library, a swimming pool, a terrace, and a restaurant space. As for Metropole Oval, it includes a wine library, a cinema hall, a swimming pool, and a large terrace. So both investment projects combine in comfortable lifestyles. By the end of 2027, the Cube and Oval projects will be fully operational, featuring the Royal Tulip Cube and Royal Tulip Oval, respectively. After the finish of the project, it will employ more than 1,000 people. The Georgian fast food brand City Chicken is going to go beyond the borders, as Zaza Gelashvili, the founder of the company, said in an interview with BM.G. At first, they are counting on the countries of the region, and then they are thinking about more distant markets. As Gelashvili says, one of the goals of establishing the company was to turn the Georgian fast food brand into an international company. For this, City Chicken is planning to switch to a franchising business model. After entering the regional market, we will take over the European countries, Britain, Holland, France, fast food business is developed there, so we think that we will take our niche soon, said the founder of City Chicken. City Chicken has been operating in the local market for about 3 years. City Chicken currently has 2 restaurants across Tbilisi and offers customers fried crispy chicken bars, wings, rolls and other products. City Chicken currently employs about 40 people. Company Nugbari, the producer of Georgian traditional sweet churchkhela, is exporting products to the Europe, US and Asia markets. The annual production capacity of this enterprise totals to 300,000 units, half of which is sold in the Georgian chain supermarkets, while the rest is exported abroad. We expect Georgian traditional sweets to European countries, the USA, Canada and United Arab Emirates and Israel as well. The largest number of the products are exported to these countries and the amount is increasing every year. Even now, we have prepared to stand up to 12,000 churchkhelas, said Eka Bacholishvili, founder of Nugbari. Company Nugbari employs more than 100 people at this stage.
Georgia is a steadfast NATO Enhanced Opportunities partner. It's a category reserved for NATO's closest partners, said Matthew Miller, spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State. The representative of the Department of State made this statement in response to a question regarding the Vilnius summit. In particular, he was asked what comment he would make regarding the fact that Georgia was forgotten from any statement that came out of Vilnius. I would say that Georgia is a steadfast NATO Enhanced Opportunities partner. It's a category reserved for NATO's closest partners, and on the United States' behalf, we continue to support Georgia's NATO aspirations, said Matthew Miller. In addition, the spokesperson for the Department of State was asked about the reason for the absence of the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Garibashvili, from the Vilnius summit. In particular, he was asked, there are reports that the Georgian Prime Minister was told not to show up in Vilnius due to his criticism of NATO over the Ukrainian war. Is that true? I'm just not aware of that, said Matthew Miller. The message from the Vilnius summit was very clear. The door is wide open for Georgia and Ukraine, remarked U.S. Ambassador to Georgia, Kelly Degnan, on Thursday. She said that the thing that hasn't changed is that the allies want Georgia to become a member of NATO.
Georgia has no stronger partner than the United States. And I think we have shown that over the last 30 years. We have a very good track record of partnership and cooperation with Georgia. Everything that we do here in Georgia is tied to 3 key objectives. 1, helping Georgia be stronger and more secure, better able to defend your borders and deter aggression from aggressive neighbors like Russia. 2, to help you grow your economy so that there's more opportunity, including in the regions, and more prosperity for all Georgians here in the country, so people don't feel like they have to leave Georgia to have a good, rewarding, prosperous future. And the last one is helping Georgia build its democratic institutions, because there's the clear choice of the Georgian people to live in a democracy, to be part of the European Union and NATO, be part of the Euro-Atlantic family of nations. So everything the United States does in Georgia is tied to one of those 3, or maybe all 3 of those. We firmly believe that the best defense against Russian aggression is a strong democracy. Of course, investing in the Georgian Defense Forces and the Coast Guard and other security institutions is very important. But when you have a strong democracy, you have a strong society. And that is the best defense, in our view, against an autocracy like Russia. So I will say I'm confident in a very positive future between Georgia and the United States. We will continue to work for Georgia's success because we believe in Georgia. We believe in the people of Georgia and your dream to be part of the Euro-Atlantic family of nations. We want to help you make that dream come true.
Georgian President Salome Zurabishvili on Wednesday said a strong North Atlantic alliance was the only path for Georgia and Ukraine to enduring peace and freedom, stressing the choice is ours and no Russian veto is to be allowed. According to her, the Atlantic Alliance in Vilnius has demonstrated its cohesion, unity, and its unwavering support to Ukraine. I warmly welcome these decisions that strengthen Ukraine's security and resolve. A strong alliance is for Georgia. As for Ukraine, the only path to enduring peace and freedom. The choice is ours, and no Russian veto is to be allowed, she tweeted. And some weekly news and outlook in the economy this week. What came into the checkpoints is focus this week. We will know now.
Irakli Garibashvili, Prime Minister of Georgia, held and led a meeting of Economic Council at the government administration on Thursday. Current economic projects and future plans were discussed at the meeting. The discussion touched upon the issue of wheat import. It was noted that as a result of heavy rainfall, a significant part of the wheat crop in the Kakheti region cannot meet the requirements of food processing, as a result of which farmers have to sell wheat for fodder. In order to facilitate and smoothly implement the mentioned process, a decision was made regarding the restriction of fodder-grinded wheat import until November 1, 2023. The conversation also touched upon the development of the digital economy in Georgia. It was noted that the country strives to get established as a digital hub in the region, and the government aims to make the most of the potential that the country has in the direction of digital transit corridor connecting Asia and European countries. A so-called tourist tax might be introduced in Georgia within the framework of the ongoing reform in the sector. The Institute of Tourism, jointly with USAID, asked the opinion to the hotels of Batumi and Kabuleti regarding the introduction of the fee. Mamuk Aberdzenishvili, Executive Director of Tourism Institute, told BMG-TV that according to research, 80% of tourist facilities were not informed about the tourist tax, and their concern was more fear than risk. According to him, if the tax is imposed, travel will become more expensive by 4.20 lari per person. Mamuk Aberdzenishvili also spoke about the positive aspects of imposing the fee and noted that this fee will help in development. He also said that the fee would only apply to foreign tourists and that would be voluntary for municipal authorities to impose it. The Georgian Ministry of Health and Medical Institutes in Israel, Spain and Turkey will sign agreements on cooperation this month to offer treatment to 300 children patients of cancer in Georgia in a 30 million lari annual program. High-technology healthcare facilities complying to modern standards and having international accreditation were selected on the grounds of a preliminary market study to act as overseas service providers. A single space offers a full spectrum of services. Patients will be able to get high-quality, high-tech healthcare services within the scope of the project. Health Minister Zura Bazarashvili said in a press briefing after Monday's government meeting, patients would be able to start treatment in partnering facilities probably starting next month. Parents will have the opportunity to choose clinics where they want their children to be treated, which we will fully finance. From these 3 clinics, in the case of Turkey and Spain, the proposed tariffs include 1 companion in addition to patients, Azarashvili said. The modernization of 12 Tbilisi metro station project will be implemented in 2023-2029, Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze announced at the municipal government meeting. The mayor spoke about the projects where, according to him, a consultant was selected with the support of European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who will help the Tbilisi Transport Company with the purchase of various services. Kaladze thanked all the international financial organizations involved in the process. We cooperate closely with EBRD. The organization is actively involved in the metro modernization project. 50.6 million euros have already been allocated in the form of loan and 5 million euros in the form of a grant, he said. According to Mayor, the international consulting company EGIS has already prepared a preliminary technical economic analysis of metro stations. Reform on mandatory minimum wage for medical personnel scaled up. At the initiative of the Ministry of Health, a new package of changes provide setting minimum wages for position of hospital attendant, junior doctors, nurse aide, nurse assistants has been elaborated. A new initiative was offered to the heads of clinics by the representative of the Ministry of Health. It was noted during the meeting that the reform will significantly contribute to increasing employees' motivation and productivity and will enhance working conditions and quality of services. The representative of the field will be presenting their opinions and reasoning related to the changes within 1 week period. The first stage of the reform on minimum hourly wage for medical personnel has come into force from January 1, 2023. Per these changes, minimum hourly wage was defined as 7 lari per hour minimum, 1,260 lari monthly for physicians, and 4.4 lari per hour for nurses, minimum 792 lari monthly. Natia Turnava, the acting president of the National Bank of Georgia, on Thursday discussed domestic economic trends, macroeconomic policy and projects implemented as part of country's cooperation with United States Agency for International Development in her meeting with Kelly Dagnan, the U.S. ambassador to Georgia, and John Pennell, the head of the USAID mission. Pointing to the difficult times in the world caused by the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, Turnava said the U.S. continued to provide assistance and important consultations to Georgia and its financial institutions. Turnava highlighted the bank has acted in full compliance with international sanctions imposed on Russia for invading Ukraine last year. She also thanked the U.S. officials for greatest promotion of economic development in Georgia, which she said included encouragement of foreign investments, promotion of trade agreements, and technical assistance. A deal between Georgia and Armenia came into force on Thursday, allowing their nationals to cross the border using the ID card. The agreement was signed by the Georgian Prime Minister Ilgar Garibashvili and his Armenian counterpart Nikol Pashinyan on January 12 in Yerevan, which replaced the agreement on visa-free movement of citizens of Armenia and Georgia through their territories concluded on May 19, 1993. The Georgian Foreign Ministry said the new deal aimed to establish even more favorable conditions for Georgian and Armenian citizens.
That's all for today. We will meet next Sunday. Follow us on BM.G and take care.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.